Hello, everybody. Welcome once again to the Resident Evil Resistance Honest Q&As. We are back again. Part 3 has turned into a two-parter, and here is the second part of that. Well, I say has turned into a two-parter. To be honest, I have tallied up all of the questions for today, and I don't know if I'll get through all of them. We might genuinely have 3 parts to episode 3. So, if that's the case, if we're like 30 minutes into this episode and there's still more questions to answer, then I'll do a third part to episode 3. I don't know how I'll structure the next part. Maybe I could even do a live episode. I answer the questions already given, and then anybody who's watching can also ask questions. Just an idea, we will see. Otherwise, we'll just follow this normal format. I'll answer these questions in a video between 25 to 35-ish minutes, and then upload it, and hopefully get more questions. Anyway, we don't need to go over the ground rules about how my opinion means nothing. We know all that by now. So let's get started and see how many questions we can rattle off. Anyway, we start again with Tacitus Kilgore. Gotta go first the best. And she asks me what happened to my RER podcast. Well, my Resident Evil Resistance podcast was a particularly successful venture into the podcasting world for the M Western 4 channel. It lasted 1 episode. No, it was good fun though, the one we did, me, Mike, Tortoise and Sam. Fun questions, random questions, we just had a laugh, different opinions, bounced off of each other. It was good fun. The problem is, I did try to get in contact with other people for follow-up episodes. I did want Doc Fabron and Thomas Equinas to be in episode 2, and then I would have gone for Bam and Conqueror and so on from there. But there was always somebody who wasn't free, or who said they'd be free, and then somebody else would change their mind. And, like, I get it. It's fine. Podcasts aren't for everyone, but yeah, it's something that I did want to take further forward, and it's a little bit of a shame that, to this point, there hasn't been anything else to say. I mean, I'd still gladly do another podcast episode if I could get enough people together, but that's the thing. As always in Resistance, that's the hardest part, getting people together all at the same time. So yeah, for now it's a one and done. For the future, probably still a one and done. But if that changes, I will be more than happy. Tacitus Kilgore then asks, who is the best creature and Terminal Spencer? Best creature Spencer would be Thomas Equinas. Very fun person to play against. He always persisted with that build, even when its effectiveness did start to dissipate as we got more and more updates. But this guy kept going, kept using anchors and creature spam. Very fun to face all the time. He could get stomped sometimes, but he could also pull off some very nice wins. So he gets my shout for the best creature Spencer. And then the best terminal Spencer. I mean, I guess it would be Ranger. But at the same time, there's a few people who were good with it. They just didn't fully main it. Like, there'd be Nikolai mains, or they would play other builds. Rat Labs was a good terminal Spencer. I think Dark was as well. I didn't see him too much, but I remember a couple of times seeing him play it and he was good. So yeah, those two would be in the conversation, but I guess by default Ranger would be number 1. We then move on to Scooby Gamers. Last couple of questions that I didn't answer last time. The first question is, who is the biggest Jillhead? He says me, you, Uzu, or someone else. And if we're talking Jillhead purely in terms of like bozo moments, like making typical Jill mistakes, to be honest, it would probably be me. I don't think anything matches running into Linkway's Trapsplosion on Bemusement 3 times in 7 custom matches. Like, that was very bad. So focused on the cams, I didn't know the floor existed. The floor is lava, maybe. But yeah, to be honest, I do think it is me. And that is not a compliment. Everybody has their Jillhead moments for sure, but yeah, I'm struggling to think of an alternative, so for now I will say myself. Scooby then asks who the best lag and net is. That's interesting. Who was that, like, rank 999 a net from Japan? I can't remember his name now, but he's up there. He was very laggy. But I'd still say number one is Sun God. This is a guy who played his very thick, very laggy Annette all the time, and it wasn't just that he played the build. Region lag exists, that's fine, but he also he'd receive messages, video clips that prove that there was lag in games against him, and he'd flat out deny it. He'd say it's our connection. He'd say that we're just cheating. He'd say that he doesn't make people lag. All this while he spawned 5+ lickers on the field in Area 3 with buffed up Ivies, like the particle effects were going crazy. So, yeah, I mean, honestly, I have to look through my old messages with him, because I don't think he ever just said, oh, my bad, or oh, I'm sorry you guys suffered lag. Like, just any form of common courtesy. I think I finished 2 matches against him ever, and every other match was just sudden lag spikes in late Area 2 or Area 3, and yeah, wasn't fun. Biggest lagonet, Sun God. Jill Sandwich then asks me who my Resistance or PSN crush is. Well, there's not much to say here. My PSN and Resistance crush on a certain Tacitus Kilgore 36 became much more than that and began my favourite journey, and will remain my crush every day from here on out. So I'm acting like they haven't been my crush for the last 1.5 years as well, but yes. Basically, what I'm trying to say is that I'm a very happily taken man, and I do not have any crushes. But if we were going with a man crush, ooh, that's a fun one. I don't know. I think me and Conqueror have a good vibe. He's nice and chilled. He has a calming presence. He's a nice guy. Yeah, I like a bit of Conqueror. No, I don't mean it that way, but or maybe I do. It is who I have a crush on, after all. Yeah, Conqueror then. Conqueror's my man crush. I'll see if I can think of anyone else as well. But yeah, there we go. Hope you're not too freaked out, Conqueror. Take it as a compliment, because it is. And then Jill Sandwich asks, who would you have had the best synergy with and why? That would be Kara. Definitely well, obviously I played Jill and Jan a lot. She played Jan all the time. And in terms of those partnerships I've had, Jan and Jill partnerships, that is, me and Kara was definitely like the most fluid one. I've played with a lot of good players who would synchronize with my character well. So let's say if I was Samuel, I've played with a lot of good Tyrones at the same time. But for pure fluidity, camera syncing, and just, yeah, knowing what cams to prep and target, yeah, me and Kara had the best fluidity out of anyone I've played with consistently, so it would be her. And then to round off Jill's sandwiches section, we have most unfun person or player to talk and go against or play with. I have a couple. Not number one, but one of them would be Symphonic Phantom. Super high rank Jan who basically thought that his build was the best and he wouldn't hear any constructive criticism to his build, even though it was so far away from optimal that it wasn't funny. I'm more than fine with people not playing meta, but he thought he was playing meta, and he was nowhere near it. And just outside of that, he was consistently quite rude, generally just very facetious with stuff he said, very snarky, but not even in the charming or, funny way. Just, yeah, all round somebody who wasn't the most welcoming, always had his little mini cliques going on, and yeah, not a fun session whenever I'd play with him. And another one would be Firebird Fred. I mentioned him for most overrated player. I also never really saw eye to eye with him. I always felt like I'd be in a party with him and someone like Darkness, and the party would be chill and relaxed, and then Firebird Fred would suddenly start talking bad about somebody, and then the next half an hour would be him saying that so-and-so sucks and just waxing spiel about anything and everything, whether it was real life or resistance. And then, yeah, if you weren't in the party next time, he would say something about you. I have evidence for that. So, yeah, Firebird Fred, again, can't say I personally had any pleasant experiences with him myself. Other than those two, I'd say I've at least had fine moments with nearly everyone. Yeah, but for purely unfun and worst person to talk with or play with at the same time, then yeah, I think those are the two that literally every session I had with them, I didn't come out of it feeling like I had fun. So I might be forgetting someone. If I did, I'll add it in the comments, but for now, it would be those two. Anyway, with those three remaining blocks out of the way with, we now move on to Lin Kuei's section. He starts by asking me the most fearless mastermind I've faced as Survivor. I mean, this is a bit of a bait question if ever I've seen one. It's obviously you, Link. Not even close. There wasn't quite anything that compared to seeing your Nikolai on screen. But you know that, and everybody knows that, so it's not really that interesting for me to answer. Other fearless masterminds who I faced, let's say the two others I was most but most, anticipating when I saw them on the loading screen. It would probably be IDK's Nikolai and Dark's Nikolai. I knew I'd be in a good match with those two either way. You'd rarely if ever get an easy win over them. Otherwise, there's obviously really good masterminds as well. Certain Terminal Spencers, or if I was in solo queue and I'd face someone, but yeah, I'd say those are the top three, unless I'm forgetting someone. Lin Kuei then asks, classic resistance or current resistance? I mean, current resistance is obviously on its last legs. You don't need me to tell you that. There's not many people left. The people that are left have largely blocked each other or are babies. That doesn't mean there still isn't fun matches to play. I've seen fun matches happen, and yeah, it's just a more relaxed environment. You might do a bit of duo queue and face a decent mastermind who will be harder because, you know, there's less SWATs running around these days, so it is a bit more chill, and in that way it's good. But yeah, I mean, classic Resistance, purely from a gameplay point of view, is by far the better. Though, obviously, the drama and fallout that also came with the, you know, fun streams and tournaments and customs, that was part of the negative. But as I say, gameplay-wise, it's not really close. Linkway then says, can Resistance make a comeback? No. No, it cannot. The game is a brilliantly unique idea, but so unique that a lot of people didn't have the patience to get into it. Some of that I understand. The leveling up system for good equipment was a bit of a slog. Especially, like, the most attractive thing about Resistance, I felt, was on paper being the mastermind. You know, having control of this fun deck, controlling zombies, spawning famous bioweapons. And a lot of people would have tried Mastermind and then never played it again after one match because the base deck is pathetic. At least with base Survivor things, it depends on how well you play as well. But with Mastermind at rank 1, even if you're the best, you're going to be struggling. And to get everything you need to have a competitive enough deck against good players, it's just not worth the slog. So, yeah. But the game will not have a comeback. I'd love it to. I'd love a Resistance 2 or whatever else. Give us a new, fresh coat of paint for the game, but it's just not happening. At the end of the day, this game is a niche. It's a niche that's loved by a certain section of people, and that's all it will remain. But at the same time, you know, it will end up being a bit of a have a bit of a cult following about it, but it's never going to be mainstream enough to come back into the public eye. No. Linkway then asks, what do you dislike the most about the game in its current state? Well, I mean, it's the block list situation. That doesn't just cover the current state of the game. The block list thing has been a problem for a good couple of years, but like as the game gets smaller and smaller, it becomes even more prevalent. So, yeah, I mean, masterminds who block survivors, whether they're toxic or whether they're too good, survivors who block masterminds, whether they're toxic or too good, like, it just doesn't help anyone's queue times. And then people complain that the queue times are dead. Like, of course they are. I don't mind you blocking laggy people, but otherwise, you know, unless you play solo or duo most of the time, then yeah, block a super OP mastermind, that's fine. But otherwise, yeah, it's just how fractured the game is player base wise. So, anything else I dislike about the game in its current state? I mean, I don't want to say like the community and stuff, because that's not about the game in terms of how it functions. But yeah, I don't know. I played, because, you know, the last update happened in 2020, so I played against all the meta builds so much that I'm okay with all of them, really. So, yeah, I mean, survivors are too strong, and that is something that isn't healthy. But at the same time, like, it's also not something that I'd say is truly desperate about the game either, whereas the block list stuff is. And Linkway wraps up with, is 120 damage fine for zombies, or should it be increased up to 150? I'll be honest with you here, Lynn. I am not the right man to ask about zombie damage numbers. For one, I don't know enough about stats to make the game balanced enough. For two, I just don't really care, to be honest. Anything that makes zombies a little bit more stronger, yeah, I can see the benefit of that. So I'd be more inclined to say yes, they should be buffed rather than stay the same. But if you want an in-depth answer, I would ask someone like Genjai. I'm sure he'd be able to do a fun and entertaining Q&A in regards to things he'd change and balance patches and stuff, so yeah. Anyway, we move on to some single questions for a little bit. We have Data Scorpion with an interesting one of, let's just say you time travel back to 2020 when you joined Resistance for the first time, and with all the knowledge you have gained in the past 3 years, like the dramas, the people, the incidents, what would you change or do immediately? See, this is such an interesting, chunky question, but I don't think I can give a proper, justified answer. Because if I'm honest, I'm not sure I'd change much. Like, at the end of the day, even if I came back and warned people that so-and-so was toxic, or King Joffrey's gonna plague the internet for the next 3 years, or whatever else, it still wouldn't stop things happening. Like, I'm not being funny, most of the drama that's happened in the last couple of years has been between people that have still blocked each other or have kept their distance from each other, and yet it still ends up in an argument just because these people want to argue and they'd always find a way. So, yeah, I don't know. I don't know what I'd change. I mean, on a personal level, I think I'd mainly just tell myself, you know, don't give everybody the benefit of the doubt. Like, I'm happy with how I treated everybody on the game, but I also was a little bit too much of a benefit giver to people who weren't necessarily as polite or considerate in return. So, yeah, I'd just be a little bit more selfish. Like, if I didn't want to play with somebody, I'd just say that instead of, you know, playing with someone just for the sake of it so they wouldn't have a meltdown. But, yeah, in terms of something I'd specifically change, I do want to give you an answer because it's a great question. So, oh, good grief. I don't know. I really do not know. Because obviously we had a couple of dodgy tournaments that happened. We had some weird incidents between people. But I don't think time traveling for me would change anything. So, yeah, I mean, I'll just by default say that, you know, I wish we had a proper good tournament that didn't have controversy and didn't lead to arguments and drama. Because, you know, if tournaments went well, then we could have still had some running for much longer than just having a couple and then people giving up because there was always someone who was toxic. So I'd just go back in time and tell people, hey, make a tournament like this, don't let these people join, and then we can have wholesome tournaments that run every week. Well, not every week, that's very sad, but every so often. But yeah, pretty bland answer, but as I say, trying to mute controversial people just will never work, so yeah. Star then asks, the worst thing about facing a Nikolai? I mean, outside of an obvious answer, like facing one of the best Nikolais in solo queue, I'd probably just say, like, if I'm playing Jan, from a Jan perspective, just those occasions where, you know, the game's netcode and stuff is a bit whiffy, and, like, you'll sometimes clip behind a door, like an air cannon will clip you behind a door, and you'll get stuck and then rolled and gooped or air cannoned and energy leached, you know, stuff like that. Because against Nikolai's, it needs to be as, you know, as precise as possible for connection, and you can't really afford slip-ups to happen. So those little glitchy things that happen in the game every so often that aren't anybody's fault but still affect the overall result, yeah, they're a bit too much to take sometimes. We then move on to Dominic's questions. He's got a few, and we start with top 5 biggest braggarts. So, I mean, to be honest, I do have 5 here, but there could be more. I just thought of an interesting 5 and thought I'd go with it. We start with Otaku Manu. This guy consistently posts videos against people saying he beat a SWAT when it wasn't. It was just like a 3-person team and then a baby. And then he'll complain when he loses and claim the game's rigged and broken. But when he wins, it's, you know, bragging time for him all day long. So Otaku Manu, definitely. Doc Fabron and Bindi Alamak can also count. They're not like the biggest braggarts ever, but they still both, you know, like clickbait about people, say that they beat this guy and that guy. I like watching Doc Fabron's videos. I think they're funny and entertaining and a bit weird sometimes, but that doesn't ignore the fact, you know, that they brag about certain wins they get, and that's that. Another one would be Raven. Like, in terms of more meta mainstream players, I think Raven's one of the biggest braggarts. I'd often see him, you know, bragging about his Daniel build and how he did this and won that match and beat these people and so on and so forth. So Raven is definitely a bragger. And again, this isn't a bad thing. Brag all you like. It's fine. Have your fun in the sun. It's not a bad thing, but he's just a braggart. And so is King Jassem, who takes the Doc Fabron and Bindi Alamak method of I beat a SWAT, which is a baby and a 3-man team, to the next level. He'll say, I don't know, Dominic SWAT team destroyed, when it's just Dom and 3 babies. Or in my case, when he said M Western team destroyed and I was with Brandon, Light Pep Talk, and Duck Mountain Sam, and Brandon and Light Pep Talk are very, very casual players who just play the game for fun, and I love playing with them for that exact reason. But yeah, I mean, that links into do I ever get the feeling of this will end up on YT after a loss? So yes, King Jassem falls exactly into that category. So yeah, but those are the main braggarts I can think about. I'm sure there's others as well. I mean, even someone like Bam, he brags, you know, about getting 20s and doing this and that, but Bam also says he's trash a lot of the time. So, you know, Bam's either 100 or nothing, but the guys I mentioned are probably the most consistent braggarts, so I'll go with them for now. Dominic then asks, what was the worst anime betrayal I have witnessed? If we're talking about Resistance, I don't know, probably Darkness saying he hated me because I'm British, randomly, after thinking I was a cool guy for like 2 years. I mean, no, to be fair to him, he apologised for that. It wasn't that deep. But yeah, in terms of Resistance anime betrayals, I don't know, I can't really think of any. And if we're talking about actual anime betrayals, then I don't really watch anime, so that's a bit of a bad answer to that question, I'm afraid. But can't give depthy answers to everything because we're already 30 minutes in. So 5 more minutes. I feel like I've been talking at the speed of light anyway. But we'll continue with who is the most addicted Resistance player? There's a few. This is a great question. I'd probably say Koji for number 1. Obviously, he doesn't play now. He hasn't played for a while. But the amount of hours that guy did play when he did play was insane. Like, I played a ton, and he was still thousands of matches ahead of me on RER. So, yeah, Koji definitely, like, had the most addicted spell of time playing the game. The most consistently addicted players, like, who have played it for the longest, not necessarily like for 12 hours a day like Koji sometimes, but who have just played it the longest consistently, would include people like Mouse and Mike, Darkness Jill as well, still playing his 999 Annette for no reason against like 5 people who he hasn't blocked. Lin Kuei, obviously addicted because he came back so many times. Me, I'm definitely in like the top few, whether that's the top 5 or like 6th or 7th, but I'm definitely in there. If I'd still played for the last 4 months, you could make a case for me to be number 2 or 1. But yeah, I'd still be in the upper region nevertheless. I played the game too much. I played the game late at night, had bad sleep schedules because of it. So yeah, I think that is pretty addicted. And others, I don't know, I think they are the main ones. Other people have played it for a long, long time as well, like Dom yourself and Scooby and Bam, but, you know, it would be easy to just pick out the higher tier players and say that they're addicted, and they were, but I wouldn't say that they were as addicted as, like, me or Koji at our very worst, so, yeah. I'll go with them for now, but I'd like to expand on that question at some point, because I'm sure there's many I've forgotten there. Dom then asks, best Resistance meme, as in a person meme or an idea of a meme. There's a lot of good Resistance meme content. You know, Jill heads, blah blah blah, all that stuff that gets made fun of. I don't know, I think Torch Becca was a good one. I personally didn't find Torch Becca like the funniest thing of all time, but it was a good meme, good content. It got milked, but it was also quite unique, so I'll give it credit. I think I'll go Torch Becca. And then the memeiest people on Resistance, probably like some of the really bad masterminds like Jametheus, who is a rank 100 plus, who still plays with the default deck. And Alexis, who, you know, you'll get 12 minutes on every time, and then once in a while he'll beat you with overdrive energy. So, yeah, they're meme players. Ultra Chihuahua as well, obviously. Bobby Bell was a bit of a meme. Joffrey, obviously, is a meme. And, yeah, those are my main answers there. And then Dom says, am I allowed to ask 5 questions? Yes, you are. Ask me 5 more for the next part as well, if you like. But yeah, I think I'll answer a couple more questions because we've still got a few to get through. I'll have to save the likes of Bridget and Ex Nihilo for next time. So I will close with Winchester, who asks, the funniest guy player in Resistance. Let's go for a top 3. And to be honest, I think they might all be Brits, just because we're automatically easy to make fun of, and because we have amusing catchphrases. I think me, Sam, and Mike would be in the top 3, possibly. I'm a funny guy, good bit of sarcasm, lovely voice, good banter. Sam's got a terrific laugh, very wholesome and positive and fun. Mike rages a lot. He's the only person ever who can threaten to kill a cat and still sounds utterly hilarious doing so. So, yeah, I think that would be my top 3. There's a few funny people as well, like, was it Ingenious Troop? He's a funny guy. And who else? Darkness was funny in, like, an inadvertently funny way. I don't think he meant to. And Raccoon's fucking hilarious, but I think that goes without saying. And yeah. Anyone else? I don't know. Other funny people are mainly like, oh god, they're a hilariously bad mastermind or whatever, so in terms of pure comedic value, yeah, I think those are the main ones. And then Winchester also asks who the funniest girl in Resistance is. So, number 1 would be Tacitus Kilgore, without a doubt. She's a very funny girl. Very witty, very intelligent, very good humour. Apart from when she mentions certain pockets or certain moments that I've done in my life that have been rather memey or hypocritical, but otherwise, yes, fantastic humour, 10 out of 10 person, 10 out of 10 humour. Well done you get number 1 for my funniest girl. Another couple, Bridget is very funny, always has a laugh, always tells funny jokes, unfortunately calls me Sticky Nicky a lot, so that's deducting some funny marks. But otherwise, yeah, good laugh, good humour, just needs to cut out the bad nickname for me, and then she'll be on to a winner. And then third funniest girl, I'd probably say is my sister, to be fair. She's got, the Western humour in her. She's a good laugh. Yeah, I'll say my sister for third. Not as funny as me, obviously, but she still has a tad of humour in there. I didn't take all of it. Fuck's sake. But on a serious note, no. She is a funny girl as well. Very proud to call her my sister. And yeah, that will complete the top 3, I think. And that will complete this episode. We're edging towards the 40-minute mark, more every episode. But nevertheless, guys, I will be back again to answer the remaining questions that I still haven't got to in part 2. And yeah, ask me more. Ask me more. Let me know if you'd want a live episode, all that good stuff. And until next time, have a lovely day. Don't take my opinion too seriously. And see you later.